Brewster here with another Brewster's Millions of Rants, and this is Diabolus In Musica, the Devil's Interval. This entire lesson is going to revolve around a very popular but sometimes misunderstood interval found in music, known as Diabolus In Musica, or the Devil's Interval. And it has a lot of nicknames: the tritone, the flat 5. You could also think of it as a raised 4th or sharp 11. But that's basically what we're talking about, the flat 5, And you can find this in the blues scale, you can find this in diminished arpeggios and chords. Minor 7 flat 5 chords. There's a lot of places in music you can find this. So here's an image with some music, song examples where you can actually hear the flat 5 in action. And here's another image, and this is showing, places in music and music theory where you can find the flat 5, whether it's in the scale like, Lydian, which has a raised 4th, or Locrian, which has a flat 5. Diminished arpeggios, augmented 6th chords, and a whole bunch of stuff. So if this flashes by too fast, don't be afraid to pause the screen so you can really kind of absorb and read, what's on this image. For the opening, that was The First Deadly Sin from Arch Enemy from the Wages of Sin album, and we're tuned down 2 whole steps for that example. And this lesson's going to bounce around a lot in different tunings, but I'll give you a heads up, before we change to a different tuning. But, this riff, is just glorifying that flat 5, because we've got the low E, which is tuned down to a C, and then we're playing this E flat 5, power chord shape. But in this tuning, that's technically a C as far as the pitch. But you're just banging on that low E. Bringing out the sound of that dark flat 5, power chord. And then you're just kind of moshing your way down into the low E string. And then repeat. Start double timing on the low E, so it's definitely a good picking workout, and I was trying to make sure I was at least close when I did the opening performance, but a little bit slower. Basically doubling that low E string. My guitar is still tuned down 2 whole steps for this kind of introduction to finding the flat 5. And, we are going to return to standard tuning right after this. I just want to demonstrate this in this detuned kind of, demonic tuning because it's so low. But you can basically find the flat 5 right in the middle of a 12-tone scale or chromatic scale. And if you count up, starting from the low E string open, count up 6 notes. And then the 7th note is going to be the flat 5. And then from the flat 5, you count up 6 more notes, and there's the octave, like where we started again. So it's something like this. And there's your flat 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then right there. And then go up 6 more notes, and you're going to hit that octave. So now I'm back in standard tuning, and I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to move over to the A string. And I'm basically just doing that so we can start from the first letter of the alphabet, A. But if we count up, from the open A to the 6th fret, there's where your flat 5 is right there. from the 6th fret and march all the way up to the 12th fret, and you'll see there's, 6 half steps or notes, between the flat 5 and the open A, and then there's 6 half steps or notes between the flat 5 up to the octave A. We can think of that note as either D sharp, which would be the sharp 4 or sharp 11, or we could also think of that as E flat, which is going to be the flat 5, which is what we're looking for. So now that you found where that is, then you should start, trying to figure out like other places you can find it. And one of the easiest, I think, is just think of a power chord. There's an A power chord, A5, and then there's A flat 5. And there's just a stacked, A flat 5, because there's A, E flat, A, E flat. And then you can hear, the flat 5 resolve to the regular 5th, go from A to E flat and then to E. And then you can also hear, A, E, and then resolve to the flat 5, which is going to give it a very dissonant sound. You can hear that all over the place. Think of like the blues scale. There's your flat 5 right there. And there it is again. For some other flat 5 ideas you can play around with, let's connect those 2 note groups, A and E flat across the strings like this. And you can think of diminished 7 arpeggios, think of Randy Rhoads. Totally Randy Rhoads right there at the end. Now, I just shared that image, and I always found it fascinating that 3 of the most popular, rock guitar riffs ever use the flat 5. And, Purple Haze, Sunshine in Your Love, and Smoke on the Water. And with Purple Haze, it's kind of hidden. It's right in the very beginning. And Noel Redding's playing an E octave. And then Jimi Hendrix is playing a B flat octave. And then together, that's creating a flat 5. So Jimmy's doing this. Right? And Noel is doing... So together, it sounds sick. That's like the closest I can kind of recreate the sound of the bass and the guitar playing that together. But that's a flat 5. Right at the very beginning of Purple Haze. Think of Sunshine in Your Love. There's your flat 5. That's in the key of D, but that's A flat right there. Think of Smoke on the Water, all right? The off chord in Smoke on the Water is also the flat 5. Right there. But that off chord right there, that D flat, there's your flat 5 again. Those were classic rock examples. What about prog rock? Think of YYZ by Rush. There's an F sharp flat 5. Think of, witch hunt. One of my favorite Rush songs, and there's the flat 5 right off the bat. Right there, there's a D flat, we're in the key of G again. Really just sinister, and it sounds haunted, but I love that flavor. It's so cool. I did talk about this in the Black Sabbath chord play from last year, but one of the most famous and popular flat 5 moments, in rock and metal, it's got to be the song Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. This. It's right there, D flat once again. Super sinister, the darkest flavor, one of the darkest flavors of music. Another famous Black Sabbath, flat 5 song. Think of Symptom of the Universe. And I'm tuned down 1.5 steps for this. Tony definitely was a detuned, pioneer in metal. But Symptom of the Universe has flat 5s too, like this. Basically going from a G power chord to a D flat 5. So, we're moving to the flat 5, but we're moving to it as a power chord. And that's basically just a higher G5 up here. Another famous flat 5 moment's The Beautiful People, from Marilyn Manson. And I'm just in regular drop D tuning. So standard tuning, but in drop D. And The Beautiful People, of course, is this. And basically we're just hitting one finger power chords in drop D. But we're hitting, this A flat right there. And don't look at what 3 fret numbers are found right there. For another flat 5 moment, think of the Call of Ktulu from Metallica, Mustaine's old song. And here you'll have an A minor add 9, which we featured this in several episodes of chord play, on this channel. So we've definitely seen this before, in other lessons, but we're going to do the A minor add 9, and then they actually target the flat 5 as the root, so they replace A with E flat right there, and then that would be an A minor add 9 over E flat. So Call it Ktulu. Very haunting and sinister chords, and I'm a big fan of those sounds. And here we're just finding, a lot of different ways you can approach and target and pinpoint that flat 5. The last example of flat 5 action in this lesson is going to come from Slayer, and this is Seasons in the Abyss, and we're tuned down 1/2 step. And I'm also using the TC Electronic Ditto Looper again, just so I can recreate this very haunted, intro. So there's 3 different guitars layered, in this recording. And the first one's just doing this. Right? And we're just hitting, an E power chord, the top 2 strings open, spelling out the 2 notes of that E power chord, and then we're grabbing B flat, which is the flat 5, bending that up 1/2 step and then back. And that's where you get that really sick, kind of possessed kind of sound. It just has this really sick flavor. All right, so the second guitar part just mimics and kind of mirrors what the first guitar part did, but it starts differently, and it's doing this. And there you can see we're hitting E, F, and then C to B. So it almost feels like we're doing, you know, an F flat 5, but we're in the key of E. So he's just, you know, targeting that flat 9 right there, or the flat 2. And then everything else is the same. But with the previous guitar part, it sounds like this. Little out of tune there with the bend. And finally, the third guitar part is much higher, and they're doing this. So all three guitar parts are bending that flat 5 a half step, and that creates this sinister, you know, just haunted sound. And you know, if this doesn't wake the dead, it'll definitely wake your neighbors if you start playing these guitar parts together like this. After that giant, brooding, you know, just evil sounding intro part, it goes to this. Bunch of flat 5. So there's an E flat 5 right here. And then you're going to raise this note up and you're going to grab that F, and that's going to be an E flat 5 flat 9, because that F note is the flat 9. And then right here, that's really weird. That's an E flat 5 flat 13. And then go back to B and it changes it back to just E flat 5 again. Because E is prominently the root note, you know, through that whole section. That's going to wrap this rant with Diabolus In Musica, the Devil's Interval. And with that image that I shared earlier, you know, I tried to select, you know, hard rock and metal, but also jazz and classical and some other places you can actually find the flat 5, because you can hear it everywhere in music. But definitely for a lot of metalheads and metal guitarists, the flat 5 is, you know, very powerful. There's this very just dark, ominous, you know, kind of flavor when you hit it, whether it's a single note or a chord or part of a chord. And leave some feedback and some comments. Please subscribe to Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content material. Thank you.